What's up, guys? We're back in the middle of nowhere with fucking PS2 buyer guy.
We just bought the PS5. As you can see, PS5
That's a five. That's a 5 upside down, right?
backwards.
Backwards, right? So we just been hanging out, man. And the where is it? Where are we? Cookie Hard Off.
Cookie Hard Off. You want to take a video really quick?
Yes, there, man. Actually, game-wise, I thought there was quite a good selection compared to ones that I'm used to in my area.
Yeah, it just depends on who lives there, right?
Yeah.
They'll be trading in all their stuff, but you never know. People come in and out, different things.
So yeah, I think Gabe you got a good deal, man. I think.
I basically bought a new PS2 in ceramic white. It's the slim model too. It's the earlier slim model, but
Yeah, boy.
it's nice and clean, no yellowing.
Yeah.
If you know you like PlayStation if you get the white model.
Now the next question is, how many AV videos were played through that? Maybe quite.
You never know, man.
You never
But
know.
Honestly, Japan's still full of DVDs and media that you can only read through, like physical CDs and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing to have a DVD player here. If you don't, you can still watch things on Netflix and whatever streaming services, but majority of old stuff is still on DVDs. So it's good to have one.
It is. That's why I'm not really that fussed about like the PS5 with the Blu-ray, because I don't really watch Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, that, and then like there's a digital and the the disc drive version and the digital only one,
which is the Blu-ray, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's because they're like starting to have the international audience in mind. A lot of people in like Western countries like UK, United States, they've moved on to just digital only kind of. Like if you go into like a United States supermarket, you're starting to see less people in the magazine section because nobody wants to see that stuff anymore. No one sees physical media. Japan's different though. They still want the CDs,
the discs.
Just the ability to play their stuff because they've been holding on forever.
But this is a whole nother thing about like the whole resale.
Oh yeah, I mean the resale is completely crazy right now.
Because I honestly think since my resales in Japan that I got some good deals on gamepads and games.
Yeah.
So that's why. But did you hear about PlayStation? They're gonna be having their own like fucking streaming channel. Like they're gonna be streaming anime and stuff like that.
Sony just acquired Crunchyroll.
That's the one. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Sony is so big. If you guys don't know how big Sony is in Japan, Sony owns more than just Sony and computer entertainment, like just PlayStation. They own obviously all the AV equipment, cameras, monitors, phones, more electronics you actually don't even know. Hardware, software, even like life insurance, I believe. There's so much more.
Sony Plaza.
Yeah, there's so much stuff you don't even know. But if you come to Japan, you'll start to see Sony in more places than you expect. So, very big company.
And what's just off camera before I met Gabe before he came back was they had loads of the Initial D cars, what are they called, the Apex, what are they called,
GT, or not GT86, it's just the 86, the Corolla
86,
Corolla 11 Trueno.
Beautiful. So they must have had like a bit of a car meet.
Yeah, so we're here in Saitama right now. Saitama's pretty countryside, Inaka.
It's about, I mean, this is the local entertainment. I don't think I've seen anybody under 50 years old yet. I don't know, but this is how it is, man. This is like legit living.
I mean, when people want to do stuff out here, doing like having cool cars and meeting up with people is a lot more easier to do out here. If you're in Tokyo and you want to do that, it's going to be harder. You're paying higher parking rates for your wherever you're staying at. And owning a car just costs more, and you don't really need to because you take the train. You just take public transit. You're pretty good to go. But out here in the countryside,
the projects,
the sticks, the boonies.
This is
the Inaka.
Yeah, but I like it, man. It's kind of nice, quiet.
Yeah.
I like this.
But I mean, obviously not everywhere's going to be the same as Saitama. Saitama is pretty accessible to Tokyo. If you're in like Tohoku, it's gonna be harder. If you're in Kyushu, that's like the bum of the that's the bum of
The
Japan.
armpit of Japan.
Yeah.
But I
Not much
did.
else
That was
going
my first place that I visited, though.
It can be good. You just need to learn how to
Yeah.
make it the best for yourself. So, yeah, it might not be always for everyone, but I mean, if you go to any place, you learn to live with it. And if it's not what you're into, you move.
Yep.
So,
Like I said, for you guys that are coming here as teachers, it's probably a good idea to live in the boomsticks for a couple of years and save some money, so you've got funds. Because basically, from what I heard, was that local gals, they normally date Japanese guys within their community, as in they have businesses. So if you're foreign, it's a little bit difficult to get with gals, because these local chicks are kind of like not an Indian style, but like they're married through like farmers, friends. They have daughters or sons. They hook up with the other next family.
it's more common to see people like, well, since the communities are smaller in the more rural regions of Japan, that's all they know until they go to the city, and then their life changes.
Yeah, what's that? That looks like a Supra.
I don't know.
It looks vintage because it's covered up. But it'll be.
So,
It's probably rotting though. I don't know if you should have car covers on cars for a long time, right? Because
I mean, there's tons of cars that are actually dusted off and rusting in Japan. If you guys ever seen something online before, there's a Lamborghini Countach in like west of Yoyogi Park that's been sitting there since the 90s. It's not rusted, but it looks terrible, but it's so cool because it's just sitting in a paid parking lot and they never moved it. It's dusted off.
it's
You
not
know,
like in Dubai, that the graveyard of
no.
Ferraris.
No, in Japan, I think also for cars too. Older cars from the 90s, obviously when the bubble economy burst in Japan, people couldn't afford to keep paying off their like car loans or keeping maintenance. So a lot of cars from the 90s got scrapped, or they're just left as is because the owners couldn't take care of them.
Is that Countach in white, by the way?
It's red.
But how much would have cost? Like in the 80s, would have been
Yeah,
astronomical.
It would have been
price.
really pricey, but in Japan, if you guys know, Japanese industry was booming so much back then that all these salarymen, they had the money. They thought they could project their loans to like last a long time.
Yeah.
It's not the same anymore, and I mean most people know that. But
I think, yeah, because I was on one of my videos, I was talking about when I met this homeless guy in Akihabara, and he was working for a big corporate company, and his company went bust, and he ended up on the streets. But I think back then, I think people were earning like easily $5,000 a month.
yeah, it could be that or more. It just
Yeah.
the industry was so widespread. Like you have cars, you have electronics.
Yeah.
It's just like consumer electronics and technology. Like that was the big thing to be in.
Yeah.
And if you found yourself in a position at one of those companies, they'd probably be paying you loads of money because, well, if they're making money around the world, they got money to give to you.
Yep.
That's how it was like back then. Wish it could be like that still nowadays, but that's not the case.
Ghetto ass gaijins talking some real shit. But it's like, but even like, when you look at cars today, you'll never see a car on the road that's rusted. All these cars, because of the.
Sometimes it depends though. Most of the cars, if you ever come to Japan, you'll see they're all sparkling clean.
Yeah.
Most people take really good care of them, and that's why a lot of them still stick on the road. But the thing is, in Japan automobile industry is that Japan's the main supplier of many cars around the world. They're pushing out new stuff for Japanese people every year, like maybe half a
Yeah.
year. So you're always getting something new that you can drive or trade in your old car for. And it's like video games. You trade in your games, right? You get the new game.
Yeah.
Same thing in Japan. Trade in your old car that's only like half a year old, 1 year old. You get a new car. And so it's pretty cool, but who knows what's gonna happen from here on out. Things are changing in the car industry.
See, they've even got upside down bicycles. This would have probably been
It's just part of the landscape now.
yeah, man. The lost and forgotten game. Yeah, it's completely different to like the UK with cars out here because oh wow, that's all Seacross.
It's just so complicated. There's not really anything you could really define anything with. It's just everything in Japan. If we're talking cars, it's complex. If we're talking anything else, it's very complex. There's so many like facets to these things in Japan that we find them so interesting. But the reason why is just because it's a complex problem. You like certain things about it, but you don't. Hard to say.
It's love or hate, guys.
You better love all of it.
Yeah.
You'll get more out of it, but
Just breathe it in when you come here because like he's just bought a nice vintage PS2.
you go back to any Western countries, they're not going to have good condition anything.
Yeah.
Come to Japan,
Fuck.
it's been 20 years since like PS2 release basically. You're getting a nice one still. When the PS5 release.
Yeah, but that had like you could buy an internet Ethernet adapter for it.
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways just to enjoy this stuff still, so that's why I think why the prices are still kind of irrelevant.
But even still, I think that the PS5 price point is still good. I think.
I mean, the thing is like, what are you gonna play on PS5 right now? You're gonna play Spider-Man? That's like the only like console exclusive. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, it is.
I'm not a Spider-Man fan. I'm not interested in playing Spider-Man.
It's like with the whole ray tracing
Yeah.
compatibility.
Basically, the modern day consoles are just trying to get onto the level of PC games
Yeah.
that are already there. But
Yeah.
people that don't want to build a PC, that's what the Xbox for. That's what
Yeah.
the PlayStation
PS5.
for. And then adding the elements of streaming games, which is a big
Yeah.
thing. Obviously, PC games can do Steam. It's not the same though. So we're getting into a new era of gaming. It's different, but you know, it's gonna work itself out. Who knows how it's gonna turn out for the rest of the year, because obviously it's harder to get for some people, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's worth paying extra for anything because there's not a lot of titles at launch. It's not the same.
These guys got his head screwed on, guys.
Keep playing your PS4. Go ahead and visit PS1, PS2, PS3. There's so many good titles you've never played. And if you come to Japan, there's more for you. So, learn Japanese, you can play them without a problem. Don't learn Japanese, you'll still have fun.
I think like so my backstory of like gaming was like when in the UK we could get our PlayStations chipped.
Same in
Modded.
the United States. Basically, yeah, you can. There's different ways to mod your things right now, but there's a lot of available content online you can just download now.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to play, so it's not really a necessary thing unless you like collecting. So yeah, it's very easy to spend your time doing cool stuff still, but you don't have to focus on a PS5 to have fun right now. So don't try to let the media distract you from that. If you like the PS5, I like the PS5 more than Xbox just because of the design. Otherwise,
You see,
okay.
a lot of people out there are saying about like how PS5 looks big and enormous and it looks garish or whatever. And I'm like, how many of you people out there who are into video games actually spend time caring about what it looks like than the actual hardware? Like, you don't look at your console all night when you're playing, right? You just turn it on,
Yeah.
play your game.
I like hardware a lot more than graphics personally.
Yeah.
PS5 looks cooler than the Xbox Series X or the Series S. I don't know. It's just Microsoft kind of undid them. But I mean, PS5, it doesn't really matter hardware honestly. Hardware, it's all the same, just a different shell. But I mean, for graphics wise, we're hitting a point where it's like, yeah, it's pretty similar. But again, how much of this can you actually understand? Like, do you really think better graphics is gonna be good? It's good, but you still play the game, right? So it's not as important. It depends on what you want to play though. But honestly, you're not really gonna.
Well, this is my whole point I had with my coworker about like the new games what are coming out, right? So like, how many fucking Resident Evil or Biohazard games can you make? I've got Abe's Odyssey, which looks good, but I'm not into those puzzle platforms. What else is out? Like, there will obviously be a new Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter game, sorry. How can they make it any better? You can't. It's just based on gameplay, right? Just graphics.
I think it's more like, I think PS4 really peaked with like what it has. Same thing with Xbox One.
Yeah.
The way that we're at playing games now is not really needed to be changed, so.
But like I said, like, you buy these older titles, and there are way more games for these older consoles. Oh, this is rather peculiar. Sorry, it's like a shop of graveyard bicycles. I don't know, very odd. There are probably hundreds of games that I never played on PS2.
Yeah, I mean, also so with the new generation of consoles, they're narrowing the gap between foreign titles in Japan and Western titles. So
are you talking about the PSN store, right?
Yeah, that basically, I mean, in previous generations of gaming, like region lock was not region lock specifically, but like having games available only in like Japan versus the West is always a big deal. Now that that's gone, it's not as important to get the hardware.
Has it gone though?
I think it's almost gone.
Because it's a long story, but like I had problems with my so I have a Japanese PSN account. My PlayStation Plus sub account is my British account. Now I had problems downloading the DL for Call of Duty. It wouldn't.
I think
I had to go to the US store.
There might be a couple technical problems, but honestly,
there is
it's more like, I don't think it's about that. It's more like just the offerings of games, you know, like just the title itself. Because if you think about in Japan, like there's so many things like limited just to Japan for like a lot of games, especially PS2. That was probably one of the biggest. PS2 and PS1 had the most like Japan exclusive titles. PS3 started to shorten that because they got rid of region locking, and then PS4 also, I think, is basically, you can play anything you want, but a lot of things were already like on PlayStation Store, so like you can just like play anything you want. Same thing with PSP, PS Vita. It's very simple to just get anything and get going. So with this new generation, it's just the gap is shortened. It's not going to be as big. So getting new hardware is not really I don't think it's a big concern.
Yeah.
Just wait. And if you want it.
Well, the next question I'm going to ask you, man, is: are you going to buy a PS5?
1 year from now, let's see about it.
Actually, there's me. I mean, I've just answered. I've asked Gabe about his answer, and there's a few people that have been hardcore PlayStation fans, and I'm one of them. In the fact that this is probably one of the first times I've never bought one on launch.
Yeah, I think another problem is just that now we're in a digital age where scalping is like a big thing. Being able to flip things is like too easy. People have bots lined up online just ready to like hit
the
that.
auto,
not just for like software, but obviously, or like tech. You also, well, actually, I guess tech is a big thing. So like obviously PlayStation is dealing with that. Microsoft's dealing with that right now. And if you want to do PC gaming, the third option, that's still also a problem because graphics cards are also being the target of scalpers right now. So Nvidia has a whole lot of graphics cards, the 3000 series, 30 series. It's also being scalped right now. So being a PC gamer, you can get old stuff. It's the same thing as having a PS4 right now, or maybe like, I don't know, an Xbox One. You're just in the same situation until the scalping dies down and the products.
I think they were going for like $1,700. I saw an email.
I don't know how much it is, but I mean, basically anyone can charge how much they want right now. It's not going to be something worth spending for, in my opinion.
Yeah, so they were going for, so it would be, retail would be 500. Like, that's the right price, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, over $1,000. And people are selling them on eBay at like, they don't even have pictures of like the actual console.
Yeah, because
It's just
no one has got it in their
JPEG.
hands. Yeah.
So
They
would you risk that?
No way, man. if you're really diehard fan, just be careful. Spend your money. Just be careful. That's all. You can wait maybe a week or two. I mean, if you really gotta play it,
Yeah.
be careful. In my opinion, no one has to play anything. There's so much thing to play right now. Don't worry about it. Visit some old titles, replay your favorites. You'll get going in a bit.
I mean, this happened at the back end of PS4 when Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out, the pirate one, when you're in the sea. And it was like, it was the last big title I think that I played on PS3, which was like at the point of like, holy shit, they've maximized everything on this.
Also, one thing I just thought of is that now we have PS5, right? Every iteration of PlayStation has had the slim version come out. When is that coming out? Because now the gap between hardware, the gap between hardware is also a lot thinner. So like, is there going to be a slim one? Does that mean we're going to get down the line? Because we think about iPhones, for example, or maybe like just smartphones. A new smartphone comes out every year. So are we going to get a cheaper one like next year? It's not really a big money problem if you really care about it, but
because you know, like about the new PlayStation 5 pad, I was all like the sensor things on it.
Yeah, DualSense.
Yeah. Apparently, some of the game companies out there are a little bit hesitant of using it because they don't want to overkill the usage of that. So I think for PlayStation 5, that will be one of their, I think, selling points of making the gamepad part of like the sales, if that makes sense.
I think it might,
instead of the Xbox.
Depending on how fast like those aftermarket companies or like third-party controller companies can make this stuff. Yeah, that'll also be a big factor because that's costly. I think if they want like all the technology to work right, they have to get the license. So.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, so I think Cookie is famous for this festival. It's like a Matsuri lantern thing. Well, of course we missed it, but next year, bro. Yeah, this place is famous for this, man. It's basically all the Yakuza guys that do all this shit. That's actually quite a nice picture. But yeah. I don't know why you'd want to carry something like that, but it's
just
part
one of the things they do here.
And like I said, guys, this is a bit of a joke that I've had because this place is in Hiragana. It's called Kuki, and for some bizarre reason, they've got cookie in English at the local mall. So I don't know. It might be some weird joke. Yeah, let's have another drink and then I'll get off, bro. Let's go Konbini. Actually, Cookie's quite a nice place, man. Some of these places like this though in Japan I really enjoy because it's just, they actually have some nice food establishments.
It's Inaka. There's good spots, but it's not Tokyo. You live with it. Yep.
But yeah, it's not the worst place to live.
Not the worst.
You got all your chain supermarket.
But that's up to everyone who chooses to live in Tokyo or lives in Japan. You should live where you think you want to be, within reason, within your budget.
Yep.
If the Inaka is a place for you, good. Tokyo is good for you. Well,
you better get working.
You better get working.
And I don't think teaching wages can supplement that. What do you want to drink, bro? It's on me. Chuai? No, you choose. I know TY was asking, Darren, please film in a convenience store. I don't really get why people want to see me buying drinks in here, but it is what it is. Yep. Oh, I know what that is. Iiska. Sorry. Oh shit. This is the first convenience in Japan that I've used this. It's so weird.
これは新しい機械ですか？
はい、そうです。
そうですね。
配信です。
That means how to work after. You don't need staff. Iiska.
言わないで。
Robot.
言わないで。
ロボット。
失礼だ。ありがとうございます。
Bye bye. Because hey, you know about that shit in Japan. There's a thing in Japan about the self-service. There's some weird thing about like apparently that's going to stop people working.
I mean, that's always been a thing.
Automation.
Automation is like, here, let's take a seat or something. Or you want to go to the smoke pit?
It's over there, bro. Yeah.
The thing with automation is like a lot of the things was starting in manufacturing.
Yeah.
That's where it's necessary to have robots. But when it starts to get into public, people are getting to this place where most people would think they would be there. So
Yep.
it's not that prevalent in like Western countries yet. But Japan's on that robot shit since
Yeah,
like
it's-
the 90s and 80s, so it's not so
It's going that
strange
way.
to see it here. I think it's actually pretty cool. But hopefully hopefully they keep their jobs and
Because they did
as
some
long as they're okay.
calculations about it. Yeah, but they did some calculations about serving yourself and having a till lady, and it is a saving of time. But Cookie, she's yeah. So-
Let's get a drink review really quick and then
Yeah.
get out of here maybe. We got the Horoyoi. This is Horoyoi by Suntory. If you're not looking for a really crazy chuhai, these are all flavored. They're vodka mixes with like another like kind of flavor. This one's a Yakult yogurt flavor.
Which I like.
Sounds weird, but it's good. It's new. It's been out for like over a year. Kanpai.
Yeah, open it, man. They do a drink called is it called Bikal? It's like a
Yeah, Bickle. Bickle's the same thing as the yogurt.
yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite drinks, bro.
It's basically a probiotic, but Darren has the strong zero.
Yeah,
How tall is the can? The can is how many mils?
I think it's 400. It'll be like 350. I think.
No, 350 is my size.
Might be
But Darren
500.
gets always the big can, so
I think these are about 500. I think
they're probably 500 mils. So we get half a liter of Chuhai down the hatch again.
of lawnmower fuel. Cheers. So I'm gonna end this video here, guys, and we're gonna have a bit of a chill chat. But I'll leave you here with this wonderful, interesting, small Inaka town. Like I said, you can have fun in Japan. These places are actually, I think, the best because, well, he got a good deal on his PS2. There's some nice, friendly people that are willing to smile and have a bit of a chat, and we've got some nice Oyaji-sans walking around. And I'll leave it.
ポテトのピザが1つ、ガーリックトーストが1つ、とホロモッツァレラのピザが1つ。
ガーリックトースト2つになってくれないんですよ。
はい、ガーリックトーストが2つで。はい。あとのデカンタ250が1つ。グラスは2つでいい。
お願いします。
はい、かしこまりました。
すみません。まあデザートまだ注文してないんですけど、もし欲しかったら後で注文できます。
できます。
あ、お願いします。
はい。
はい。
So guys, live in the building, TMD special edition. Me and a YouTube subscriber, Gabe.
What's up?
So yeah, it's been a crazy experience meeting this guy because he's been on my videos for when
I started watching your videos when you made the grocery store review. So you were making like just like some normal bread, or no, you're not baking. You just bought like bread because you were like feeling cheap, and then so I actually have been subscribed for you for a while, but I watched the Mac like reviews, and then I saw that you're starting to upload again, like other stuff. So I was like, why not just watch a couple, drop a few comments.
stupid foreigner. So yeah, like, what was your passive son? Are you cool about this being on YouTube?
No, it's fine. Yeah, let's go.
So this guy here is a very talented modeler. I've actually checked your IG. Like, what was your whole purpose of like coming to Japan?
So I'm actually here in Japan. I just got here like a week ago, and mainly I wanted to live in Japan for a while, like for a long time. But I only just finished college this year, so I'm actually quite young. But after kind of deciding what I want to do for the future, I think coming to Japan was like, in your 20s, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I got to spend the rest of my time here, and finding a job besides like Eikaiwa, like English lessons, it's kind of hard. But I mean, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I have that as my degree, and then I also have Japanese, so it's pretty obvious to like make my dues and then come to Japan and like start living here. So I'm here now. It's still COVID, but we finally came through. I had a negative test at the airport, and that's all I needed to actually get in. So that's it.
I think like the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing that I respect this guy right here.
あと、お水、すいません。お水頼んでもよろしいですか？
お塩2つでよろしいですか？
お願いします。
So I think looking through
We got that.
organization.
Some red wine from Caesarea. By the way, we're at Caesarea. It's a Italian style.
It's get out.
Yeah, Italian style family restaurant. I don't know how Italian it is, but honestly, it's alright. But it's not the best. Cheap red wine?
Why not? I think what most impressed me about this guy here right now, because I met some guys off YouTube that are like mainly from Malaysia, who are already modelers, but this guy here is all about like, it's all about like, if you want to come to Japan, I think one of your Instagram posts was with the Honda Civic, about, you said like, learn Japanese, you want to come here.
So yeah, my philosophy is like, well, you can come here to Japan on a tourist visa. That's totally okay if you're like not committed to like living here long term. But in the case that you do want to live here, there's a lot of different options, and I know that obviously like teaching English at like certain English schools, that's probably going to be like the easiest way to get in here. But obviously you might get stuck at a dead-end job just like doing that. A lot of foreigners, I mean, they're okay with that. And I actually, in my college time, like just my time at college, there was a lot of other classmates that I had that said they wanted to do like the JET program that says like you can go like live in Japan as long as you like teach English at a school somewhere. But they send you to the fucking Inaka, all the countryside places like that need English teachers, and that's obviously not an option if you're trying to live in Tokyo because most likely they won't put you in Tokyo. And thinking about that and how I like already started studying like Japanese at an early age. I started in high school and like continued in college. And that kind of led to me thinking that once you got enough Japanese under your belt, like it's not hard to get a job, although you have to be willing to work for a company that you like. And so me, as a mechanical engineering major, I wanted to work in like kind of automobile industry because I like cars. Knowing that Japanese, it's pretty easy to get a job, but I think that's the best way to get it if you're scared of like getting an English teaching job, because that's not necessarily the best position you want to be in when you're in Japan. It's harder to move up in that position if you get that job. And I'm basically here after college, and I think it actually was successful. And I think basically just knowing Japanese is going to be the only way to like actually get here without having to go through some like more hurdles than you need to like live a successful life here. So.
Like you're 25 right now, 24.
Yeah, 24. So
he speaks better Japanese than me, and I've been living here 12 years. Like it's intonation skills and everything that, like, I think with some foreigners that want to come to Japan, like Gabe said, is that if you have drive and motivation, like you want to come here and do non-specific teaching jobs, there are a lot of IT jobs. So like in Tokyo right now, I think in the Edagawa area of Tokyo, we have a lot of like Indian guys that are doing IT. So there are a lot of Japanese companies hiring non-Japanese people. Gabe is one of them. There are a lot of people from India. Even my company at Sony, we have like multicultural staff. It's because having foreigners within a company, it means that they have diversity, which
that's actually what most companies are actually asking for nowadays.
Right, yeah.
Because I mean, Japan is a pretty special place in which most people only speak Japanese. Because people don't want to have that be the case for the future, because Japan needs to keep growing for globalization to happen. They need to start like inviting foreigners to join their companies. And a lot of these companies that are actually starting to open up, besides like English teaching jobs, are allowing foreigners to come in. They don't always have to know Japanese, but they definitely have to like, they have to like start being motivated to learn, or just like being on a Japanese position, which can be like less rewarding in a sense in terms of salary compared to a foreign job like maybe in the United States. So there's a lot of people coming here for different reasons, but I think like there are a lot of jobs you can get. It just depends on how you are able to find it, and if you think you want to live going on. So.
He's a different case though, because like I think I work with a guy from England who is doing course design for Sony on my game company, and it's like the people that come to Japan, I think that a non-specific English teaching will get a better future in this country, because you're so diverse and like the companies want to use your
we have pizza. It's probably only like
it's pizza.
Less than 30 centimeters in diameter. It's not really that much. But remember, we're at Saizeriya.
Shogunai.
So
like, what started your whole obsession with Japan? What was I know you were into your cars.
There's been a lot of things I've been interested in Japan, so from a young age I always was actually I'm actually half Taiwanese. My mom actually, she's from Taiwan, but a lot of people, half Asian people, or a lot of Asian Americans in the United States, they're very, a lot of them have some kind of influence with Japanese stuff, especially in my age. A lot of people like video games. I think that's a big draw to like Japanese culture, even if you might not think about it at first. Like video games, and it's a big thing abroad too. But like when you start to think about where things come from, video games all originated kind of like in Japan. And so when you think about that, that's kind of like, well, it's a Japanese thing you might be interested in too. Later on, obviously anime too. That's a big thing. Personally, how I got into modeling was through anime, and so when watching Gundam, for example, they have like so many plastic models. That's a big thing, right? So in the United States, it's actually pretty easy to get Gundam models, but
Which websites do you use, Gabe? The Gundam USA?
I don't actually. I use usually HobbyLink to get like new releases, but for a long time, back when I was like in middle school at least, there's a local like hobby shop in where I'm from, Seattle. And you could just go to a store and just buy all these like new releases, and so usually I would just buy that with whatever allowance I could save up, and that's kind of how I started. This is like all like pre-2010. It's still pretty hard to get stuff back then.
Like, for example, like, so you like cars and stuff. Like, were you in the like Initial D?
Yeah, and
model
so
place?
since I'm from the
The
United States,
Nissan, or the
eventually I got my.
Sylvias.
In the United States, you can get your license starting at the age of 16. I already got like my license at 16, and that's when I started watching Initial D. And like, yeah, that's another thing about Japanese culture. It's like you start realizing more things. For that anime, Initial D, it's all about the cars, and so Japanese cars only. You realize what you can't have in the United States. You can't have, and you can only have it in Japan. So another reason to come here, obviously, is just like the car stuff. But yeah, like plastic models, going back to plastic models, like it's a big thing that would draw a lot of people in here. Cars.
辛味チキンお二つになります。ガーリックトーストお二つになります。ザルは全部お揃いですか？はい。
I think like back in the day when you were into the car game, I think a lot of British car freaks were not aware of Initial D. When were you introduced by Initial D? Was it through the modeling kits, or was it through YouTube,
It was
or?
more through just like getting my license, like I said. So once I got my license, what kind of car would I get? Right? I mean, anybody can get any car.
Like
And so-
Skylines back then?
So at that point, you still couldn't get a Skyline in the United States, but how would you end up choosing a car kind of depends on like what you're into, and so finding a car anime or manga, like Initial D, helps you kind of choose what you want to get, and so that helped me kind of like take a step forward. But then obviously, when you get into it, you realize there's so many cars here in Japan that you can't have over. And I think like that's what draws people why they want to come here to Japan. So that's another thing besides like modeling. And so yeah, I know a lot of people in England too. They also want like a whole bunch of like Japanese parts for their cars. It's the same thing as like it's the same thing in model kits. If you can't get something, it's basically Japan keeps a lot of things for themselves. They don't export it overseas, and that's why it drives so many people across from like overseas to want more things that they can't have. So again, I think that's like another thing that I wanted to get into. And then yeah.
So like, so you're from like Seattle, Washington?
Yeah, I'm from West Coast.
Oh, West Coast. So I know like the Vietnamese and the Asian fraternity, they're really into the Honda Civics and stuff like that. Is it so popular in the US?
It's very popular in the US. Everybody over there definitely wants to have like the most JDM car. So that just implies that they want the most Japanese option cars that no one has. Everyone wants to have the most unique car. And I think that's cool. It's really cool. It's really cool for like the culture over there. People just want to, it's like almost as people wanted to be in Japan, but they can't be there due to circumstances. The best option is just to import parts and stuff. And so that's like the main thing about like West Coast like car culture stuff. a lot of it has to do with like wanting Japanese like standard cars, which is JDM. So yeah.
So now that you're living in Japan, if I could ask you, which would be your favorite car if you could? Well, I'm not saying if, but like if you were to buy a car, what would be your like supreme upgrade car or car to buy in Japan?
Well, the first car I'm gonna think about getting actually. So in my company, they actually required me to have a car. Currently, I'm like actually considering getting a car that I never thought I would get at the beginning, but I'm thinking about getting a Honda S2000. So a lot of the domestic cars here are generally cheap, but on the pricier side, a lot of cars that age well over here tend to keep their value. S2000 is a very good car. Darren may have mentioned it, but he works for Sony, and if you know the game about racing cars that's very popular on the PlayStation system, the second version of that game, the cover was that car, Honda S2000. And I've been playing a lot of like car games and like that, and also having friends who also like have cars like in the United States. Like that car is probably a pretty obvious option to get, but yeah, there's so many different cars here. You can get into a lot of things. Customization's crazy, so it's a lot of fun just like in general.
That's why it's called Japan. Well, like how? Okay, what's your opinion about Japanese like what we call family carriers, people carriers? Like you don't have the hiace,
Like a van.
yeah, the hiace vans and stuff.
Yeah, high spans we don't have in the United States. We generally have like
But I think there's a big market for that. Right?
yeah. So I think all those kind of commercial type vans, they would do a lot really good in the United States. However, General Motors and Ford, Chevrolet has like the market on that in the United States, and so they can't get really replaced by a lot of like Japanese like, commercial vehicles. So we don't have that over there, and that's also what kind of drives up more like interest in like Japanese vehicles because they tend to be like very cool in how they look and some of the functions too. And so I think that's the reason why a lot of people like Japanese cars overseas. It's just because the functionalities of the car is like so much better than the domestic options in the United States.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Because like what I noticed about these family vehicles is the upgradability. Like you can make them look actually really like cool looking versus like in England where you got like a Renault or like a Peugeot or like but in Japan it's not. We'll upgrade it. Lowered suspension, trims, everything.
I think it's very similar to like model kits. When you want to make it like a model kit, it's you want to make it unique to yourself. And so a lot of people here in Japan, I think, in order to stand out, besides like the way you look, the main thing you can do if you own a car is to dress up your car. And a lot of the options that come here or come out of Japan, it's so lucrative to like a lot of people overseas because they can't have it. Here in the UK, there's not as many tuning options for your cars. In the United States, there's not many domestic offerings for like option kits. So when you think about like who's gonna give you that kind of like, ability to make your car unique, you're looking towards Japan and like their tuning options. So it's very interesting, but it's something to get into if you're like really looking for something as a hobby on the side of like just doing normal things.
So this is why I kind of think like because you work for Honda, right?
Yeah.
That maybe Japanese companies are looking for foreign inspiration in terms of aesthetics and design. So before like maybe in the 1990s or 2000s, they were hiring.
Yeah, I think foreigners weren't really a big thing back then. Back in the 90s, I think that's probably one of the best like periods for like having cars. In the 80s, like when the Japanese bubble economy was happening, obviously you had a lot of modeling stuff going on, resin kits, plastic stuff. At the same time, even like Japanese like car auto manufacturers and tuning shops were pushing out so many like option kits for their cars, and so it's just like a perfect time to like do things to make things unique. But as time goes on, we're in 2020. It's not the same as it used to be, but the options to still have these things are still available, and I think people still think the same way. So it's pretty cool, and you still can't get it overseas. So I think that's one of the big draws that you can still, it's still going on, which means that you can still be into this kind of hobby or like this kind of lifestyle.
You know what? You know what amazed me the most, Gabe, was about the whole superbikes. About like how in Japan you don't really see bikers on fire blades or ninjas. And I think like with Japanese car makers is that they tend to sell most of their lines to the foreign market. Because in Japan, you can't obviously do those kind of, well, you can't really do those speeds, right? You can't, it's not an image thing up here, it's just normal. Whereas well, like in the US or UK, it's like, I've got my car upgraded, I've got a bike. Japan seems to me like, it's not like an arrogant show-off thing. Does that make sense?
It kind of is still here, but not as much as it used to be. Like back in the 90s, I think, since like, you could say it was like a tuning boom back then where everyone, all the technology coming out was like so new, everyone wanted it. And people wanted to show off back then. I think that's, if any of the viewers know about all like the street races and stuff, that was a big thing in Japan, obviously. There's drifters with their cars, but there's also for bikes too. A lot of like people that are called Hashiriya, as well as street racers. Like, people would go to like mountain passes and like start obviously racing. And so that's a thing you don't really, it's available in the United States. Anybody can do that. But or like even in the UK, you can be a road racer, no problem. But in Japan, it was a little bit easier to get away with because I think at the time, back in the 90s, like more police weren't like onto this stuff as they were.
It was a cult thing, like the girl in the white jacket, the long, with all the big cans.
Yeah, so Bosozoku was like in the 80s, and then transitioned to the Hashiriya, people wanting just to like, just drive, like they don't want to like be in gangs.
That was like the old Honda,
And so because of the technology coming out in Japan at the time, like, oh, watch out. So basically, yeah, at the time I think just like so much stuff was coming out in the 90s. It's like, it was hard to keep up with, and obviously police officers couldn't catch all these guys off at the same time.
Came be back after a toilet break, so I was just saying to Gabe about how I'm mind blown by his intellectual knowledge of cars and stuff like that. But I think what it is with people that really want to come to Japan, like Gabe, if you have passion about coming to another country, regardless of coming to Japan, it could be South America, it could be Africa, it could be anywhere in the world. And I think if you put your mind to something, especially like learning another language, and then adapting that on top of your skills, you're like a designer, you use Autodesk and CAD. I think right now in Japan is struggling to find people with these skill sets who can speak Japanese, who can read Japanese, who can do a skill set. It could be IT, car design, everything. Japan right now is going through a really weird transition because a lot of Japanese people, they don't want to do this shit, man. They want to get into that kaisha.
There's a lot of problems like with the society right now. Obviously, you know that a lot of people are getting older. The Japanese population is very old. And so when people like prospect like what's going to happen in the future of Japan, obviously a lot of people will die probably within the next 20-30 years. It's going to happen. It's it's unfortunate, but obviously that leaves a lot of people, young people, in a position where they need to find jobs. And so, if you know anything about Japan right now, obviously a lot of young people are struggling to like start families. Obviously that too. I probably that's like another video. But with the decreasing population, it's going to be pretty hard. I think there's still like a lot of like chances to find like employment out here, but it's more like you can probably find them personally, but at the same time, it's also a thing about Japanese companies wanting to open themselves up to foreigners to allow them in. Because I always think about this, but it is hard to live here if you don't know the language, if you don't know the culture. You're gonna have a hard time. There's a lot of loopholes you have to like figure out. And basically, if it comes down to like why you want to be here, if you want to be here for probably more like 5 reasons, this is probably a good reason to come here. There's a lot of different things you can do here that may relate to your hobbies, and I think as long as you can get closer to what you want to do, it's a good reason to move out here. But don't come here like when you want to like just be here for just having fun. I think you also have to give back to like working in Japanese society just to kind of get a reward. If you want to be here for tourism, that's good. But if you want to live here and work like the least amount, like maybe eikaiwa, like English teaching, it's not gonna be as rewarding as you could get. But yeah, there's a lot of different things to think about. It's very hard to explain because on a person-to-person basis, it changes.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people that are watching TMD, if you like modeling, there's no place in the world that's better than Japan for modeling. You got all the paints you could ever want. You got all the tools you could ever want. Machining Creek comes out of Japan. You get whatever you want in Japan. So that's a good reason to come here. But it's up to you to see if you can make it over. Besides just like just your hobby and like kind of like other circumstances.
So we've like it's been what 1 hour since we met in like physical time. We moved that up. And I want Gamer-san to be honest about this. Like my personality on YouTube and now, how do they correlate?
It's about the same. You're gonna meet this guy in person. You're gonna meet Darren in person. It's about the same.
Because do you know why I answer that? Because like there's a lot of fucking idiots out there on like J-bloggers and stuff like that maybe if you met them in person they would be totally different. And I'm not saying like I'm putting this guy under pressure and saying like we've done the same, but I think with me and like my videos I don't really give a fuck about what I say because I think a lot of foreigners back then was like Japan is like an awesome place to live. It is in theory, but for some people it's not, right?
Yeah. Actually, a big thing about that is people do make Japan to be like a great place to live, but they don't tell you actually the bad parts about it. And Japan's not obviously a perfect place. There's a lot of social issues that still exist in the country.
But that's the same with me moving to your country, right?
Yeah. So,
it is anywhere in the world, but I think Japan is a bit more.
Japan is a really
cumbersome.
There's a lot of things you have to learn about the country before moving here successfully. You can move here, but there's going to be a lot of problems within that. And if you're not prepared for that, it's going to be a headache, and you're not going to want to do that. You're not going to enjoy your life as much as you like put the research in. And going back to like social issues, like for a lot of different people, there's a lot of different problems. For example, like there's a lot of like, working and like education problems with like a lot of Vietnamese immigrants that come in here.
Oh, did you see that? My thoughts about it.
Yeah,
you read about it.
Yeah, it's been a problem for a long time. Just depending on your circumstances, the problems, the social issues may arise. I mean, if you've been to Japan, you may have seen like things like firsthand. there's a lot of things you can't even like just describe because a lot of the problems it's hard to explain in like one video. And it also becomes a problem that you can't just explain people on video. You really have to be here to understand it. So.
It's like what in some of my videos that I talk about, like, and maybe I overkill this terminology. It's like, oh, this is another video, because he knows what I'm talking about. Because I could spend weeks talking about one specific thing that to the viewers you are like, why are you like making 5 videos on like eating food? Because you know like how rule systems are in place on one.
Essentially, if you're like kind of summing it up, the content that you put out in the videos, you won't actually understand until you come to Japan and experience it yourself. Once you experience it, then it'll be obvious. And to the certain degree of obviously understanding Japanese language, you will understand that much based on how you understand the language. Because people are talking to you, you don't understand, it's going to be a lot more complicated. But I mean, you'll learn through experience. It's very hard to learn just from videos. And J-vloggers, obviously, a lot of people are watching them, maybe at this time, like in COVID, when people are staying at home. They haven't been to Japan yet, maybe. They don't know as much as what entails when they actually come. Everyone's experience is basically different. And so once you actually come out, you'll understand kind of like more. Once you have like experience with the problems and what things you run into. It's like, it's really, until you come here, you'll start to understand kind of like if this is a good place for you, or maybe not necessarily what you had imagined. It just depends on.
It's like even today, before I met Gabe, I had a whole situation on a train today which was like, I basically tried to stop a young guy punching a very old guy that was drunk maybe, and I actually missed my stop by 3 stops because I was trying to like, but a lot of these like people that blog out of Japan, me and Gabe, like, we have an interest of like cars and model kits and stuff like that. So like many of like the viewers that like view or look at Japanese like blogs on YouTube, I think sometimes it can be quite specific because like through my analytics, I have no female fans because of the content that I talk about.
I think based on your content, obviously people are more interested in seeing modeling stuff. But obviously on the side of TMD doing the modeling stuff, you're kind of getting a little bit extra lifestyle kind of videos, which is good. When you compare it to all the J-vloggers that are kind of projecting towards a more general audience, for example, the one we always talk about is that the J-vloggers go to the konbini, the convenience stores, and say how good they are. They are great, but obviously that appeals to a lot of people. And I think the people that are in that audience are generally people that are looking to do tourism here. It's very simple.
Richibu, what's your opinion about konbini food?
Okay, konbini is like the best in the world here. If you want to get off the boat and shit, it's the best place to go. If you want to get like just like deli food, it's probably the best. I mean, even though people want to say that the sandwiches, like for example, if you know the sandwiches,
The tuna and egg mayo.
yeah, the tuna egg, like people like the J-vloggers, they'll say, oh, this is the best thing, you have to come here. It's still good. It's not as good as what they portray it to be. I mean, it's good. There's a lot of good things about it, but for example, it's just like, it's a really good store, and Japan has kind of mastered kind of like the style of how that, like this kind of store exists. It's good. But it's only good if you're here. So if you're just watching this video, you're not gonna come until you come here. It's not gonna be any good to you. It's not gonna be any use as much. until you experience it. And like I said before, it's like until you come here and experience things for yourself, I think you'll know if you want to be here long term.
Do you want to be here long term?
I want to live here forever, but that's because I'm a fucking nerd. I know why I want to be here. And I think if you don't know if you want to be here or not, just come here, know what you're into, and then eventually you're gonna know if you want to live here.
I said to him today, like, basically all the hardcore nerd people are into like Japanese culture, whether it be manga, anime, cars, model building, even girls. Fucking, like what he said, man, on his IG, learn Japanese, make new friends. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, I met him, like, what was it, like, he literally spoke to me like last month.
Yeah, about a month.
He's like, I'm coming to Japan. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I'm coming out like next Sunday. I'm like, what? So obviously, through this COVID vibe, we met today after like 3 weeks. And this is what I'm saying about networking. Because like, you're now working for a major car company. I work for a major gaming company who deal with cars. And it's all about contact, because at the end of the day, my company might want to contact you about doing like 3D scanning, wheels, architecture. Japan is a network country where it's all about ministry, right?
Yeah. So,
in England, in America, it's not really as popular as Japan.
yeah, I think like the rest of the world compared to Japan still is, a lot of people say this, but Japan is technically behind on a lot of things. One of the big thing people talk about now is faxing. Japan still does the faxing, but
Yeah, but you know,
obviously, like Japan, making connections here is a lot different from like the United States or any Western countries, maybe the UK too. People here value like kind of the interpersonal connections. So if you know someone, that leads you into a lot of different things. You never know what you might get into, but like it's generally a positive thing if you know more people. As long as you can kind of take it into like an open heart, you can find a lot of like good people, and which makes it a little bit more rewarding to live here. So if you're kind of into that, if you're looking for more adventure, that's definitely a good thing to consider when you're in Japan. But again, being like prepared with the language skill, that's kind of like the only way you can.
his Japanese is fucking dope. I don't know.
If you don't know Japanese, it's okay, but it's just gonna be a little bit hard. So if you wanted to make it move more smooth, it's just like if you know Japanese or not. If you're not pushing yourself to learn Japanese, it's gonna be a lot bit harder. It's like you choose to come here. But then obviously it kind of leads into tourism. If you want to be here or just want to experience it, it's fine. But then again, it's just up to your experience. If you want to come here,
Right, guys, let me and this guy relax. We'll have some more drinks. We're going to make some more videos maybe later. But for anybody out there that wants to come to Japan, my friend, he's a young guy. He can speak excellent Japanese. He's studied hard. He's motivated. All you guys that are going through COVID right now, got lockdown, you have this time to study software, programming, languages. Don't use COVID as like this negative vibe, you know. I know some, like right now I'm learning Python and I'm learning Maya right now at my work, and I'm learning Japanese. Everybody's got a lot of free time before you get back to work, and I'm saying like, look at this guy as an example. If you're from America, you want to come out of Japan, want to work for a big car company like Honda or Subaru, you know, Nissan, learn Japanese. Spend your time wisely. Don't be playing video games all day. You know, don't be depressed. Like, use this shit time to like progress through your life story, because you know, you can't be feeling always down all the time. But I'm going to leave it at that, guys. TMD out. we'll progress to the next video.